Well, obviously, we found the pushback that we did receive from some of the teams to be troubling and inconsistent with public statements of their desire to get to the bottom of this. But we are also respectful of the joint investigation being conducted by the NWSL and the PA, and the fact that they're going to be looking at this, and the fact that it is the NWSL that has the authority to be able to address coaches and coaching misconduct and discipline. So we certainly make note of this. We highlight it and think that the NWSL should make affirmative decisions after they review our report and the upcoming report of the joint investigation. Yeah, I think it would be enormous. That's why, rather than getting bogged down in an investigation of every potential incident, which there could be many of those, and I'm not suggesting that they should go unaddressed, but what I think can happen before that is something that is more abbreviated in identifying what are some of the systemic issues that we have in youth soccer across the country, and putting into place a framework to try to address those issues going forward. So I totally agree with you. I think it would be an enormous undertaking, and I don't think that really should wait for that. Right. Well, we laid out all the facts as we found them by name in this report, in part so that others who are outside of the U.S. soccer framework could make decisions about what future participation should be for several of the individuals that we've identified here. I don't think it's our place to be telling FIFA what they should do. I think that they should read the report and make their own independent decision from that. Well, we put enough in the report and we investigated enough, we felt like, to be able to demonstrate the systemic nature of the abuse here. But we also were mindful of the fact that it's important that this investigation not go on forever. It's been almost a year to the day, actually, since we were retained. And in order for there to be both transparency and accountability, and to be able to put in place the changes that need to happen, this investigation needed to end. Because of the breadth and the difficulty of piecing through, evidence that's quite old, even with respect to 3 of these coaches, it was a huge undertaking. And so what we thought that the best use of our resources would be to identify those others, lay out what some of the evidence is there, and recognizing also that the joint investigation, the NWSL and the PA investigation, is also looking at other coaches. So we thought we should try to use our resources in a way that would be most effective to identify systemic shortcomings and to be able to make recommendations for change. Well, I think, as I indicated a minute ago, we were troubled by a lot of conduct that we saw here, which is why we thought that it was important to lay it all out in terms of, based on the evidence that we were able to find, who knew what when, and what they did about it and what they didn't do about it. But we also recognize that there's another investigation specifically commissioned by the NWSL, that's the NWSL and PA joint investigation. The NWSL has the authority to deal with owners. And so we obviously thought it was important, or we wouldn't have highlighted it in our report, but we think it's premature to get out in front of that other investigation. And it's the league's decision of what to do with this.
And I'll be honest with you, this is very emotional for me. And honestly, I'm having trouble absorbing everything in the report. I think it will take some time to really read through it and think about the actions and inactions of certain people, and it'll take us some time to really think about what needs to be done in terms of discipline. So, it's not like I've had this report a long time. I'm still dealing with it and trying to absorb all of it. And I think we need to allow a little bit more time to judge and think about what actually needs to happen. And, you bring up one specific organization, and, I saw one of Meg's comments in that this is bigger than one person, one organization. This is really systemic. And so the league is going to do what they need to do. US Soccer, we're going to do what we need to do. But more broadly, we need to make sure that no team, no organization, no individual, no executive is ever allowed to put the players in the position that they were put in. The gravity of these issues requires not us to just simply turn the page. We can and we must use this report as a galvanizing moment for forward progress. I'm committed to leading on this and to work tirelessly to make our sport safer. I think Sally Yates did a great job with her report and laid it out. There are many people who are not necessarily still under US Soccer's umbrella that have gone on to other places, whether in our sport or outside of our sport. And those entities will have to make the decision that they want to make. Obviously, discussions will continue and continue to be had. Yeah, I've tasked Danielle Slayton, and she's coached as well. And Mike Colonna, who is the vice chair of this board committee, to really look at the youth and like, okay, what are our next steps there? What can we implement now? And what is a long-term focus and look at the youth landscape? Because as Sally said in her report, it wasn't in the scope of her investigation because she kept bumping up against the youth game. And so I think it's something that we need to take a look at and make sure that we're doing everything we can at the youth level to make sure the players are safe. And part of that will be educating organizations, educating parents, educating players and coaches on how to make sure the players are safe. I mean, I think just reading it makes it sound simple, but it's really not a simple process. So this is something that we are going to be looking seriously at and engage a lot of different people on this and how is it possible to do this? How are we going to do it? How does it affect the people that are already licensed with US Soccer? So on and so forth. So I think it's like many of the recommendations, like we're just getting them. So like I think it's hard for us to say we're going to do this without a plan and a timeline and how we're actually going to implement things. So while it's really challenging for me to be patient, and I'm sure it is for many of you, but the changes that we make, I want to make sure they're meaningful changes and that we have an implementation plan. And it's not so simple as just changing a policy or changing a bylaw, because implementation is actually the most important aspect of it. And so, so I'm really focused on both, like, what do we need to do? Okay, we're going to do this. And then how are we implementing it? And that is really important part of this process.